In this video, we will discuss a not so happy subject, the different things that can cause your deal to fall apart. In doing so, we're also going to discuss how you should react to each one. I'm sure there are many reasons why real estate deals fall through. However, I'm only going to talk about the 5 most common. They are: the buyer's financing falls through, unexpected items come up in home inspections or the appraisals, the homeowner cannot get insurance, the appraisal on the home comes in too low, or the buyer changes his or her mind. As I mentioned in one of the previous videos, even if a buyer is pre-approved or pre-qualified for a loan, that doesn't guarantee the loan will be extended. Since the housing crash, banks and mortgage companies have been more stringent on approving mortgages. They want to make sure that the buyers have a steady source of income and can afford the home no matter what. In some instances, you may receive word that they did not get financing for the loan. This is not the end of the deal if you pull in the right people. The number one thing you need to do is to reassure the buyer not to give up. Encourage the buyer to seek out a mortgage broker, not a mortgage loan officer at a bank or a credit union. The buyer needs a mortgage broker. Mortgage brokers represent many different lending institutions and have the best chance of finding a lender who specializes in the borrower's unique situation. This is going to delay your closing, but you will have a good chance of keeping the deal together as long as the buyer didn't flat out lie to get pre-qualified for the loan. The second way your deal can go south is if you have some unexpected items come up in the home inspection or the appraisal. These can be big ticket items that could cost you several $1,000s, or smaller items that you could fix yourself for 10 or 20 bucks. I see many sellers who get offended by the things that are brought up in the home inspection or the appraisal. Heck, I even got offended when looking at the home inspection when I sold my last house. Remember, it's the inspector's job to find every little thing that is wrong with the home so the buyers know what they're getting into. In most cases, these items will come up during the appraisal. Whether or not you have to fix these items, though, will depend on the type of financing that the borrower is using. Like I mentioned before, government loans such as FHA, VA, or USDA loans are more stringent about the condition of the home. They will sometimes make you replace carpet in a closet or something ridiculous like that. The reason they do this is because the borrower is typically putting down a lower down payment. This makes the borrower higher risk that they will not repay back the loan. In these cases, I recommend you fix all the items that are required. If you don't fix the items and walk away from the deal, the next buyer will know about these items. Why? Now that you know about them, you must disclose them to any future buyers. If you don't, you can get sued and you'll have to pay to fix them later, along with a lot of attorney fees. If your sales contract allows it, you can go back and negotiate with the buyer about who pays for what. For example, if you have to pay $15,000 for a new roof, you may want to raise the price of the home by $15,000. Of course, the buyer will need to agree to this. Make sure to consult your attorney in these situations because they will have good creative ideas to help you out here. You can also come over to the Facebook group and we can help you as well. If something comes up during the home inspection, it's typically up to the borrower to say whether or not they want those items fixed before closing. Home inspections are not typically shared with the mortgage company. Because of this, these items are very negotiable. For example, in the last house I sold, there were about 8 items that came up during the home inspection, and the buyer only wanted me to fix one of the items. The most important thing here is to leave the emotion out of the situation. Yes, you're going to be offended. Yes, this may be a lot of money, but sit back and move into this mindset. How can I do this in a way that will still make the deal go through? By approaching the situation this way, you're much more likely to come up with a solution that will help the buyer and yourself come to an agreement. Again, I cannot reiterate here enough that if you don't fix something that surfaces in an appraisal or an inspection, it's very likely to stop your next deal from going through as well. Outside the inspections and the appraisals, there may be something that prevents a buyer from getting homeowner's insurance. I've seen buyers trying to purchase homes on islands and have trouble getting insurance because all the major insurance carriers refuse to cover homes on the island anymore. In fact, I have a friend in North Carolina who ended up getting insurance through Lloyd's of London because no U.S. insurance company would insure her condo. In these cases, the seller was typically grandfathered in before the insurance company made the decision to move out of the area. If your buyer runs into this situation, make sure that they go see an insurance broker, not a dedicated insurance agent. Dedicated insurance agents typically only sell insurance through one insurance carrier. For example, State Farm insurance agents can only sell State Farm insurance. In my current home, I had trouble finding insurance because the roof on the house was 23 years old. Living in Florida, insurance companies like new roofs because they hold up a little bit better during hurricanes. Luckily, I found an insurance broker who had an insurance company that was willing to give me 30 days to get a new roof on the house after closing. I was able to close on the house and simultaneously take out a line of credit to start the roof work. Otherwise, I would have had to go to the seller and have them put a roof on before I moved in, which would have increased the price of the home. Next, you may have a situation where the appraisal comes in lower than the agreed upon amount. Typically, this is not going to happen. Appraisers put a very strong emphasis on the negotiated price for a home. Why? Remember what I keep saying. Your home is worth the price that you and a buyer agree upon. No more, no less. However, this can happen in very hot markets where the prices are increasing rapidly. Buyers have the right to appeal the appraisal or order a second appraisal. But many times a buyer will need to come up with a larger down payment to purchase your home. In this case, there's little you can do as a seller. I recommend making sure that the buyer acts quickly by appealing the appraisal, ordering a new appraisal, or coming up with more money for the down payment. This way, if any of these fail, you can get your house back on the market very quickly. Finally, you may have buyers who just get cold feet and want to back out of the deal. When we sold my mother's house, the buyer was waiting on a settlement check and could only afford to put $100 down for the deposit. This worried my mother because the buyer had very little to lose by backing out. Unfortunately, when a buyer wants to back out, there is little you can do or say to keep the deal alive. Are they contractually bound to buy your home? Yes, but the penalty for them backing out is losing their deposit money, and that's usually only going to be a token amount. If you run into this situation, there's no use fighting it. Make sure that the buyer knows you're going to keep the deposit, then cancel the contract and put your home back on the market. Any type of legal action will take months and cost you money. In the end, you'll be better off if you just move on. An area that I did not mention above is when something surfaces during the title research. I didn't mention it because you have complete control over it. There are times when your home's title may have a lien from a subcontractor who was not paid by a contractor you hired, or a previous refinancing was not executed properly and there's still an old mortgage on the title. These instances are even more rare than the ones listed previously. If this happens to you, it will delay the closing. You will need to engage your real estate attorney quickly and get this resolved. Once it's resolved, you can move forward. Just make sure to keep the buyer in the loop so you can meet their expectations at every turn. It's not common for a deal to fall through, but it's not unheard of either. There's no use worrying about these items because there's little you can do to prevent them. Focus on the fact that you have a deal to sell your home, keep positive that your closing will happen, and stay busy packing. As always, if you run into a new situation or have questions, come over to the Facebook group so we can help you out there. Thank you.